What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? D-backs blank the Nationals in game one of their series, and why we can't overlook the complementary pieces on this D-backs roster.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use code all lowercase lockedonmlb for a first deposit match up to $100. On today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, we'll talk about the D-backs blanking the Nats in game one of their series. We'll discuss why you can't overlook the complementary pieces on this D-backs roster. And we'll talk about Brandon Pfaadt versus Patrick Corbin in game number 2. Thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. Please hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. Our goal is to hit 2,000 subs by the All-Star break. So once again, please hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. But now let's talk about D-backs versus the Nationals, game one of the series, because D-backs are playing some really good baseball at this time of the year, and they were able to handle their business against the Washington Nationals in game one, blanking them 5-0, and it was a complete effort by the D-backs. Offensively, they did their job. Pitching, they did their job. The D-backs as a team playing really good baseball right now. Winners of 11 of their last 16 games. We're seeing full team efforts. And fun fact about the D-backs last 10 games, all of them have been decided by at least 5 runs. Longest streak in Major League Baseball history. So these are the big margin D-backs. They're either winning by 5 or they're losing by 5. And more times than not, over the last 3 weeks, they're doing a lot more blowing out than getting blown out. This is the best that we've seen the D-backs play in weeks. They're on a little hot streak now. Over the month of June, as we've discussed, they have been the best offense in the National League this month. Runs, WRC plus, they have been great in the power, great in the speed. The D-backs offense is playing really good baseball this month. But you also can't overlook the guys like Slade Ciccone. When they have a start like they had against the Nationals, you have to give a round of applause and tip your hat, because the Slades, of course, the Ryan Nelsons, like all those spot starters, right? All of them we have been really frustrated with at different points of the season, and rightfully so, because they are very trick or treat type of players where one game you could be like Slade Ciccone in game one against the Nationals, where you look like a legit major league starter, maybe a guy that has a future as a number 3, number 4 in this league. And then there's other starts where Slade Ciccone goes out there and gives up like 8 earned runs over 2 innings pitched. So these guys, the back end starters, haven't been super consistent all year, but recently they're pitching well. Ryan Nelson had a good start recently. Now Slade Ciccone delivered in game one against the Nationals, and man, did he deliver, because this was the best start of Slade's career, going against a team who offensively is pretty mediocre. So it was perfectly set up for Slade to have a good day, because he can just as easily. Of course, the Nationals aren't a great offense, but it's not like Slade is an elite pitcher. He could have easily had a terrible day and gotten blown up by the Nats, but instead he goes out there, best start of his career, 6 scoreless innings from Slade, only gave up 3 hits. One of those was like a little blooper by CJ Abrams. 2 of them was to CJ Abrams. Like, Slade did a great job of attacking hitters early, attacking both sides of the zone. Like, he was really in full command of the strike zone in this game. 52 of his 70 pitches went for strikes. Like, he only needed 70 pitches to pitch 6 innings, which is crazy. And then 52 of those 70 went for strikes. Really elite job by Slade. 14 of the 20 batters had a first pitch strike. He made sure to get ahead of the count going against that Washington Nationals team. And it was one of the best, probably the best late Ciccone that we've ever seen. Really impressive. It wasn't like he generated a lot of big swing and whiffs. He did generate 6 strikeouts, but it wasn't a ton of swing and miss. He just did a great job of putting the ball where it needed to be, powering it by guys, and then executing perfectly when it came to location. And that's why we got some soft contact. I mean, that was like the biggest thing from this game. Not a lot of loud and hard contact by Slade given up in game one against the Nats. He had himself a fantastic start, and we want to see him keep it going with that level of consistency. If he's able to do that, he should potentially be a long reliever once the starters come back. If Slade can be anywhere close to what he looked like in game number one against the Nationals. And then the offense just continue to keep it going. 14 hits in the game. And then, as we always like to look at, team strikeouts versus team walks. 4 walks to 4 Ks is always the magic number for the D-backs. Almost everyone in the lineup had a hit except for Gabriel Moreno, who did have himself a sac fly RBI. Still waiting for Moreno to get going. He's really the only guy like in the entire organization for the D-backs on the active roster who is not swinging the bat well right now, which is kind of crazy. So hopefully Moreno can eventually get it going. And we'll talk about why we think he can get it going in segment number 3 when we preview the next series against the Washington Nationals for game number 2. But rest of the lineup did their job. Corbin Carroll, he's starting to smoke balls once again. Line drives in the alley. We got the triple, the double from Corbin Carroll. Drew 2 walks, like the plate discipline. He's shrinking the zone, the type of pitches he wants to attack. He looks really comfortable at the plate. Slash line still where we don't want it to be just yet, but it's steadily improving. It's getting better every day. 218 average, 310 OBP, 321 slugging. Still not the Corbin Carroll we're expected, but way better than where he was, pre-June, and he's starting to climb out of this hole and slump he's been in. We can see the numbers over the last 3 weeks. We can see the eye test. Corbin Carroll is starting to wake up, and it is matriculating down the entire lineup. Ketel Marte continues to build his all-star case. 2-run home run in the first inning. Marte, just fantastic, having himself an insane season. The best second baseman in the sport right now. 106 off the bat, 414 feet. Would have been a home run in 27 of the 30 ballparks. Coors, Target Field, and Oracle Park. Sorry, Ketel, would not have been a home run there. Jock Peterson, 3 more hits. You got a Gurriel, couple hits. Like, the craziest thing about Gurriel, you look at the slash line, the OBP and slugging still where you don't want it to be, but I just think it's kind of funny. Average now for Gurriel, 250. Average for Christian Walker, 255. Christian Walker has been way better than Gurriel this season, way more consistent. I mean, the OBP and slugging crush Gurriel's numbers, but just on an average, just from the perspective of average, Gurriel and Christian Walker basically getting you the same amount of hits right now, which is crazy to think about because of the slump that Gurriel was in for 6-7 weeks. But just like Corbin Carroll, the month of June and over the last 3 to 4 weeks overall, both of those players have really been waking up offensively, and it's good to see. Then Eugenio Suarez, he's been playing better recently. He's taken this approach of not swinging his bat anymore, which is actually very effective. Been drawing a ton of walks recently, got a base hit in today's game. Eugenio, we still think he's playing way too much, but like the fact that he's at least drawing walks, being patient at the plate, and being a positive contributor on offense. Great job by the D-backs in game number 1 to blank the Nats and handle business. Slade delivered, the offense delivered, and we'll talk about if they can do it again in game number 2 against the Washington Nationals. But if you need any parts for your vehicle, then the place you're going to want to go is, of course, eBay Motors, because passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And if you want to win any money on America's number one fantasy sports app, then you need to download Prize Picks because with more than 5 million members, it is the most fun, exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on two or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. With Prize Picks, you can turn $10 into 1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections, and you're locked in. There's always action on Prize Picks, and this is the perfect time to try out something new. As basketball is winding down, make sure to try out esports this month because for every Wednesday and Saturday in June, if your lineup doesn't win, you'll get your entry fee back. Choose from Counter-Strike 2, Call of Duty, League of Legends, and more. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Let's talk about the complementary pieces on this D-backs team because I think we need to talk about the players on the margin. I think that's when you talk about the best teams in any sport, any team sport, baseball, basketball, football, the stars are, of course, important. The Patrick Mahomes, the Corbin Carrolls, the Kobe Bryants, the LeBron James, whoever you want to say, those are, of course, the guys that are going to lead you to the promised land. Those are the guys that say, hey, get on my back. We're going for a ride to the championship. But a lot of times when you get to the championship and on your way to the championship, the small plays are the ones that add up. And a lot of times the small players are won and lost by the dudes who are on the margins of your roster, the complimentary guys, the guys who we don't consider the stars, but make an impact on your team. You can even look at like the 2018 World Series. I think Steve Pearce, I'm pretty sure, won World Series MVP for the Boston Red Sox back in 2018. If not, it was the NLCS. I think it was the 2018 World Series, though. But there's a lot of uh, examples of that throughout history where you could look at the NLCS or the World Series or, the semifinals in the NBA or the NBA finals or the conference championship in football, the Super Bowl, where maybe it's not the best player that wins it. Maybe it is a role player that steps up, right? Malcolm Smith in the Super Bowl back in the day, Andre Iguodala in the NBA Finals. Stars are important because they are going to make the biggest impact and contribution to your team night in, night out. They're going to be the people that take on the bulk of the pressure, the people that you put the most weight on to deliver expectations. But a lot of times, games, championships are won and lost by the players on the margin. And when you're looking at this D-backs team, I want to give credit to the players on the margins for the D-backs because they are the reason why the D-backs are even treading water in the standings right now. And I think we have to give more credit to where credit is due because the D-backs have dealt with so many different variables as to why they have not lived up to expectations this season, right? With injuries. Erod, who was signed this offseason, first major signing by the D-backs this offseason, he has yet to debut. He's been dealing with injuries all year. Zach Gallen, he's on the injured list. He's dealing with a little bit of a hamstring problem. Merrill Kelly, he's out too. Potentially the All-Star break. We just got Domo back. Alec Thomas has been out most of the season. Like, when you talk about from an injury perspective, the D-backs have been so down bad. Paul Sewald was out for multiple weeks. Like the D-backs have definitely been down bad from an injury perspective, then also from a performance perspective. The Corbin Carroll's really sophomore slump has not been able to get it going at all. He's finally doing it over the last 3.5 weeks, but for so long, Corbin Carroll was just a negative offensive player for the D-backs in their lineup. Same with Lourdes Gurriel. Same with a Gabriel Moreno. Like when you look at the D-backs in their record and why they haven't exactly met expectations this year, I think you would say injuries and poor performance from the Stars are the two main factors as to why the D-backs have been struggling this year. But even with all that being said, D-backs are one game below 500. They have a positive run differential, and they are currently owners of the third wildcard spot. And I want to give credit to the complementary pieces because they would not be where they are right now without the guys on the margins of the roster. The Stars have been hurt. There are a lot of good players in the rotation and the pitching staff that have been hurt this year. It's been the guys on the fringes of this roster that have been able to step up and keep the D-backs where they need to be. Randall Grichuk, he has been so important for the D-backs as an off-season signing. I want to give credit to Randall Grichuk. As a consistent offensive player, he's been able to contribute a lot on offense. I've been surprised with how consistent he is night to night whenever he's in the lineup, especially considering he's a platoon guy. He's a guy not playing every single day, but he's maybe a guy that should be playing even more. Over a 300 average, over 800 OPS. He's been critical to what the D-backs have wanted to do this year. Jake McCarthy, with Alec Thomas going down, with Gurriel and Corbin Carroll not living up to their standards for most of this season, he has been so critical to the D-backs. He has been their best outfielder by far this year. 287 average, 370 OBP, and a 414 slugging. Jake McCarthy has been so important to this team. He's been getting hits consistently. He still provides a ton of speed. Jake McCarthy has been so important offensively this year. Kevin Newman, Blaze Alexander, both of them as the shortstop for the D-backs, with Geraldo Perdomo dealing with injury, with Eugenio Suarez doing nothing for you on the left side of the infield offensively. Kevin Newman and Blaze Alexander have both been very important for the D-backs to the left side. Newman, his slash line right now on the season, like it looks fine, way better than what we've ever would have expected when we signed Kevin Newman. If you told me this was going to be a slash line 52 games into the season, because that's how many games he's played, I would have signed up for this. 283 average and a 709 OPS for Kevin Newman. Yeah, that's way more than what we would have expected. When you look at his stats over the last few years, nowhere near that. Blaze Alexander, he's batting like 280 with over a 700 OPS as well. Like combined to get a 280 average from those two guys, very, very nice to step up in a big way with the Perdomos out and with Eugenio struggling all year. Those two guys have been so critical for the D-backs on the left side of the infield. And then the Slades, the Ryan Nelsons, all of them have been really inconsistent. The Blake Walsons, but when they're right, they feel so important to what the D-backs want to do. The Justin Martinez's, him stepping up in a big way and being a revelation. Ryan Thompson being a revelation ever since the D-backs acquired him last season. It's been the guys on the margins that have kept the D-backs afloat this year, have kept the D-backs in the wild card race. And I want to give credit to where credit is due to the dudes on the margins. It's not the Carrolls. It's not the Zach Allens. It's not the Kellys. Maybe it is the Martes and the Walkers because those guys have been really good. But outside of those two, the stars for the D-backs have either been hurt or they haven't performed well. And it's been the dudes on the margins who have been able to keep the D-backs alive, keep them treading water, and keep them in the wild card race. And I want to give them their due justice because they deserve as much credit as the stars on this D-backs team. And one of the stars on this D-backs team that have emerged this season is a Brandon Pfaadt, and we'll talk about him potentially winning game 2 against the Nats in segment number 3. If you're looking for some life insurance options, then the best place to do that is, of course, Policy Genius, because a lot of life is unpredictable. But a good life insurance plan gives your family a financial safety net to protect against some of the unknowns. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you easily compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. Their award winning agents can even walk you through the process step by step. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. And here on Locked On Diamondbacks, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year round. You know what else is year round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience in an A plus rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in the episode description below. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. If you like the show, please follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for my personal account, Millard.Thomas123 for the personal Instagram, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks on both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle. But now let's preview game 2 against the Washington Nationals, because we got Brandon Pfaadt versus Patrick Corbin, not Corbin Carroll, of course. It's Dbacks past versus Dbacks future. And also, will we see an offensive explosion in game 2? Let's first start with the pitching matchup and talk about Brandon Pfaadt, because Pfaadt, I have loved the way he's been for the most part this season. There was definitely a little 3-4 start stretch where he struggled a little bit, but for the most part, Pfaadt is having himself a very good year. I do think he is emerging, and I think as the season goes on, his numbers are only going to get better. He's only going to look better. The numbers right now aren't bad for Pfaadt. They can definitely use some improvement. A 4.38 ERA, a 1.1, 6.2 whip, 9 strikeouts per 9, below 2 walks per 9, only 1.1 home runs per 9. Like, he hasn't been getting crushed by the home run this year. He's cut it in half from last year. Like, overall, he's walking guys left. He's walking guys less, giving up less hard contact, striking out slightly at a higher rate. Like, Brandon Pfaadt is definitely much improved from where he was last year. I think as the season continues to progress, we're only going to see Pfaadt get even better. And again, I still think he can finish as a guy that gets a couple of Cy Young votes. I don't think he has any chance of winning the award, but could I see him finishing 10th in the Cy Young award race by the season's end? I do think Pfaadt has that in his potential. Now, he is someone coming off a very good start against the Washington Nationals, and I want to see if he can replicate that. Now, in that most recent start, he did have to work a little bit. He got a quality start, 6 innings, 1 earned run, but the Nationals made Pfaadt work in that start. 103 pitches over 6 innings for one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. Pfaadt had to work for that quality start, and he was able to deliver it for the D-backs, which he's, typically able to at least go deep in the ball games, and in the most recent start was able to deliver a quality start, which he's actually done a good amount of times this year. That's why I think he could potentially finish at least top 10 in the Cy Young Award race, because he does have a bunch of quality starts under his belt this year. And I think when you just look at the trajectory of Pfaadt from where he was last year to what he did in the postseason to how he's pitched this season, 2024, there's not a doubt in my mind that Pfaadt is on the career trajectory of actually being a frontline starter for the D-backs. Does that mean number one Zach Gallen level ace? I don't know, but I do think Fott has at least the potential to be a very good number two starter, if not the best number three in Major League Baseball. And so we love Brandon Pfaadt, and we think he's going to take it to the Nationals in game number two as he shows Patrick Corbin that he's the future of this staff. And Patrick Corbin is the pass of the D-backs because Corbin, ever since signing with the Nationals, you can make a real argument that he's been the worst pitcher in Major League Baseball, which is hard to say because the D-backs had Madison Bumgarner during that time on their staff. But it's very close between Mad Bum and Corbin, who has been the worst pitcher in the NL over the last few years. Corbin, in just his career with the Nationals, 6 years, 5.08 ERA, a 1.4 whip. He has led the league in losses the last 3 years consecutively. And look, losses are not all on the pitcher, but when you look at a lot of Patrick Corbin's numbers, the losses are on him. He has led the league in earned runs 2 of the last 3 seasons, and he's currently leading the league in earned runs right now. Currently leading the league in hits allowed for the third time in his Nationals career, and he has led the league in home runs allowed 1 time as well. This should be a situation in game number two where the D-backs offense takes advantage of Patrick Corbin. He is terrible against both righties and lefties. It doesn't matter who you start, Torey Lovello. Don't think just because Patrick Corbin's a lefty, you have to get the lineup full of righties. Just put your best lineup out there because I guarantee you they're going to have a good day against Patrick Corbin. Literally, if you go to the StatCast and look at the Patrick Corbin pitching arsenal, it does not matter what Patrick Corbin throws. Every pitch he throws, major damage written all over it. His sinker, 568 slugging allowed this year, 583 expected slugging. His slider, 500 slugging allowed, 459 expected slugging. His cutter, 480 slugging allowed, 503 expected slugging. Four-seamer, 531 slugging allowed, expected slugging, 584. And his changeup, 632 slugging allowed, 601 expected slugging. Literally any pitch he's given, he gives up loud, hard contact on any pitch he throws. If the D-backs go out there and throw up a stinker in game number two, I will be very offended. And honestly, the guy that we should potentially watch in game number two from the lineup, who has very good success against Corbin in his career, Eugenio Suarez. 8 for 21 in his career with a home run and 4 RBIs against Patrick Corbin. This could be the game where Eugenio really shows his value to the D-backs and has himself a huge offensive performance. So for the D-backs, Fott, have yourself a good start against a mediocre offense. And then D-backs offense, you guys better go off against one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball over the last few years. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.